Hello and hi dear friends of gartenschlau.com. In the video about washing off aphids from lemon trees with dish soap, Sabrina asked a question. Specifically, all the leaves are falling off her citrus plant. And she would like to know what the cause is. And I will answer that for you in this video. Yes, leaf loss in lemon trees can have various causes. You see here I have a few of my plants. Some are relatively decent and have adapted to the winter quarters, like my mandarin tree here, which is soon ready for harvest. It's a small harvest with at least 6 fruits. One fruit has already burst open, so I could already have a taste. So this variety tastes very, very good. I am also very enthusiastic about it. But the question is, why do they shed their leaves? Do they do that? Yes, they do that. And that's already a reason why I'm showing you this. With this plant right away, one cause is the temperature difference between the shoot and the root. This is explained by the fact that I have a stone floor here where the plants are kept for the winter. There is no underfloor heating or anything like that. The floor is cold. Really cold. Even walking over it without slippers is relatively unpleasant unless you don't mind cold floors. And for that, the air is warmed by the heating. And this creates a temperature difference, especially for plants like these that have a long stem, from the shoot to the pot, while the plant at the top, where it's warm, starts to sweat. Water? Water? Give me water. The roots stink downward. I don't need any water at all. Why should I direct water downward? And the water is pumped up through the roots into the shoot. And when the roots down below say, it's so cold, I'm not going to do anything here, I'm not working here, I'm going into hibernation, I'm at rest, done, over. Then the shoot thinks, it's so hot here, do something down there. And then at some point, the upper part of the plant says to itself, I don't want to sweat so much anymore. I don't want to work so much anymore. I'm shedding the leaves. In other words, the difference from the cold pot below to the warm one, the shoot leads to the plant saying through this stress reaction, which brings us to the next point, I'm shedding the leaves. Then I'm done with sweating. And you down there can do whatever you want. You can freeze, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is a completely normal reaction from the plant. That, simply, is meant to ensure the survival of the plant. And now comes the next thing. As soon as this stress factor has been eliminated, the plant will behave normally. Let's move on to the next point. And this again has something to do with stress. Here I have my limquats. No, just kidding. This is my rosso, Lima rosso lemon. And it shows another phenomenon of stress. You see, when I shake it, it drops the leaves. What is the case with this lemon plant? In the video about aphids, washing them away, I showed with citrus plants using dish soap how, or you could see how closely packed the plants are. The plants that are directly by the window side, they naturally get the full light. The plants that are behind have their light stolen by the plants in front of them. And that's exactly the case here. The plant is in the second row and doesn't get as much light. This stress factor of too little light and warm overwintering, they are on a plastic table at my place. So the pot itself is already similar in temperature to the shoot. So this shoot root temperature gradient cannot exist. It's definitely the light. The plant says, nope, winter rest. It's warm, no light, leaf drop. Similar effect as here, but due to a different cause. Then again, here I have my Australian finger lime. It has a very, very strange phenomenon. As for the upper part, it is definitely much greener than when I first received the plant. Shortly after I received it, it started crazily developing leaves, as in side shoots. But it starts drying from the bottom. I have already cut off some branches that were completely dried out. I will continue to do this gradually. You just have to be a bit careful. It's very thorny. These branches dry from the bottom up, presumably. A fungus could be behind it, or it could be a stress reaction. I can't say for sure yet, and I haven't found anything on the internet either. I hope it's only the lower branches and that the upper shoots will continue to grow. And that this is an exceptional state. Of course, depending on whether you ordered the plant online, or perhaps transported it home from the garden center, a root damage could naturally have allowed a fungus to settle here, or the root might have been damaged. Due to the transport, it might not be able to supply the upper shoot as well. We have to wait and see how the whole situation develops. But you have already seen the beautiful mandarins here. Of course, there are also specimens that do not shed any leaves, just like this one here. This is a cross between a limequat and a clementine. It also heavily depends on what variety you have. This plant is also in the second row, but has completely retained its foliage. In other words, depending on what variety you have, the plant may naturally tend not to shed leaves or may tend to shed a lot of leaves. For example, Butter's Hand is a candidate that likes to shed its foliage. As I mentioned, this is not a problem in itself, as long as the plant's shoot remains vital even without leaves. The plant will continue to live into the next season. That's the great thing about lemons. Normally, you can overwinter citrus trees in relatively dark and cool conditions. They will simply shed their leaves, and as soon as the temperatures are suitable again and you place them in bright and warm conditions, they will sprout again. So, the loss of leaves is usually relatively easy to cope with in a healthy plant, even if it has lost its foliage. So, let's ideally summarize. Stress factors include 2, little light, too cold, too much water, too little water, which is rather rare. It's rather rare to let a plant that is overwintering dry out. They are more likely to be drowned. Then, the temperature balance between the roots and the shoots must be relatively well balanced. And if everything actually fits, and you've now realized, oh, this and that might have gone wrong for me, then the plant will naturally recover well accordingly. For citrus plants, if you want to overwinter them in a warm environment, it is very, very important that they need a lot of light. So, a south-facing window, a conservatory, or a greenhouse if you have one, or just a large bright window, then it's actually not a problem at all. And if it sheds its leaves, then it just sheds its leaves, and it will take a bit longer in the spring to become green again. So it's actually less of a drama. Many citrus plants bloom during the winter months if they are kept nice, bright and warm. But it will also bloom in the next season. When it gets warm, you can put it outside, and if it gets plenty of light, it will start blooming again, provided it has the necessary nutrients. And how to care for citrus plants I'll explain in the next video. If you have any further questions about the cultivation and care of citrus plants, feel free to write them in the comments. Give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and recommend me to others. There will be some super awesome topics coming up soon. So, until next time, goodbye